am in my vehicle headed to a doctor appointment. But I want to talk a little bit about von Willebrand's disease and what it actually is and how I was diagnosed with it. Von Willebrand's disease is basically your platelets are weak. I don't have a lot of the von Willebrand factor. The sticky substance in my platelets isn't sticky enough. So when I get a cut, my body sends blood cells and platelets to that area, and my platelets are so weak that if I literally just tap my hand, I can just lose that scab that is forming and I start to bleed again. So when I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with rhabdomyosarcoma. I had a tumor in my uterus, the size of a golf ball. So I was rushed into emergency surgery and had that taken out. I remember sitting Indian style with my brother, Billy, and we were watching TV. My mom was on the couch, my dad was at work, and I was wearing a pair of white shorts. And I remember my brother looking at me and looking at Mom and going, "Mom, why are Sherry's pants all red?" And my mom was fantastic. She was like, "Okay, let's go ahead, go upstairs, put a new pair of shorts and underwear on. We're gonna go to the doctor." She was calm, she didn't freak out. It was great. And that is what made me be so calm about everything and not freak out. My parents taught us that you deal with your fears, you don't run from your fears, you face them head on. More stories about that later on. So I had cancer at 4 years old, had the surgery. During my surgery, they had to give me 2 blood transfusions, and 1 blood transfusion afterwards because I kept on bleeding. We never picked up on anything at that point. Fast forward to me in my early 30s. I have severe asthma, so I have to have my tonsils taken out because when I would have asthma attacks, or if I would get sick, my tonsils would literally touch and it would cut off my airway. Had my tonsils removed, and about 2 days after my tonsils being removed, I started to bleed. Went to the doctor, they just zapped it, they just cauterized it really quick. Went home. About 3 days later, I was sitting in the living room eating cold SpaghettiOs because that is all I could eat. I lost so much weight with all the mess that I went through, and I'm 113 pounds, so I lost 10 pounds. So I was literally skin and bones because I couldn't eat anything. I had to take liquid morphine, which, oh, that was awful. So I was eating cold SpaghettiOs, and all of a sudden my mouth filled up with blood. Rushed me to the hospital. I had my throat, they cauterized it and brought me in surgery and stitched it. After that happened, I was in the hospital for about a week. Went home and I was sleeping, and I sleep with my mouth open. So my mouth got dry, and I remember I woke up and I was just drenched in blood. Back to the hospital, they stitched it and cauterized it again. 3 days that I was in the hospital, I asked, "Hey, can I take a shower?" Because I shower every day and I hadn't showered in 4 days and I was feeling gross. And the nurse said that shouldn't be a problem. I remember I sat up from bed, I swung my legs over the bed and just waited, and all of a sudden that motion, I started to hemorrhage again, and I was hemorrhaging to the point where my platelets were literally turning into jello because I was hemorrhaging so hard. My platelets were trying so hard to fuse the cut or diffuse my tonsils. Back into surgery I went. They packed it, cauterized, and stitched it. So I had these 3 things. Mom flew down. I was in Florida when this all happened. Mom flew down. She was with me. And packed it, cauterized, stitched it, and then I was in the hospital for another week because Everybody was waiting with bated breath, holding their breath, hoping I did not bleed again. It was just very traumatic. It's awful. Week in the hospital, they decided, okay, she's okay to go back home. So I went back home, and I actually was okay. But I do remember the last hospital stay I was at, I remember my mom was with me, and I just coughed. And some of the packing came loose, and it kind of blocked my airway a little bit. And I just panicked. Well, I didn't panic, I just shut up. I knew what was going on because I've had medical training in the past. So I know in these situations, when you panic, you make it 10 times worse. So don't panic. Very important. I knew that it was right there. So I motioned to my mom, and I wrote down packing loose. And it was in my windpipe. And I thought, okay, if I do anything, it could either go down and block my windpipe, because it was literally, when I had coughed, it had sucked back right near my windpipe. So I was like, oh my gosh. So we called the doctor that was there at the hospital on call. He came in, do not remember this man's name. He was fantastic. He read my medical chart. He first asked me, are you okay? And I gave him I'm okay. He read my medical chart from end to end to get every bit of information that he could. And I remember during this process, I felt the urge to cough. And when I did, that little tiny piece of packing came out. And it's like a very small piece of packing, but it had come out. So I was like, okay. And then I thought, oh my God, do I taste blood? And I kept on doing that. Do I taste blood? And I didn't taste blood. So at that point, I knew, okay, lay back down. You're all right. But I seriously did not move any more than an inch for like the next 2 days. I was just a little paranoid to even move. So that was all well and good. Finally was able to go home. And I remember one of the stitches that they put in, they left the stitch too long, so I could, like, when I ate or drank anything, I could feel the stitch like trying to go down my throat, but it couldn't. So me being me, I took a long pair of forceps and a pair of scissors, and I went in and I snipped that little piece of string, because I was like, this is seriously makes me gag every time I feel that like little tickle in the back of my throat, and I have a bad gag reflex, so I'm like, yeah, no, we're not doing this. So got that out. So my surgeon, which I will not name, because he did not do very well taking out my tonsils, because what he had done was he went too far, and your carotid arteries, he was way too close into my throat to where he should not have been when he took out my tonsils. I had my tonsils and adenoids removed. So we didn't do anything. We didn't sue him. You know, shit happens. We had no idea I had a blood disorder. But I remember he came into the hospital room, and I asked him, I'm like, you know, why did all this happen? Because he was on vacation. He only did the first surgery, the first major surgery that I had when I was in the hospital, after the SpaghettiO incident. He was the one who did that surgery, and then he was gone, and then came back. And I remember I asked him, why did this happen? And he's like, I don't know. And he walks out of the room. I just welled up and started to cry. My mom, oh my God, I got my fighting spirit from her. She walked out, and you said, you get your ass back in that room, and you talk to my daughter and explain why this happened. And I'm so thankful that she did, because there had to have been a reason. I mean, this just doesn't happen to people when they get their tonsils removed. Everybody gets their tonsils removed. No one has any problems. They heal up quick, no problem. So she got him to go back in the room, and he said, what we're going to do is we're going to have you see a hematology doctor. This was in Pensacola, Florida, that all this had happened. The best hematology doctor in Pensacola, Florida was Dr. Kitchens. I don't know if he still practices, but he was fantastic. everything was all said and done, I was on my way to healing. He brought me into the medical examiner room, like where he did all of his like surgeries and whatnot, and he just pulled me aside. He's like, we're gonna figure this out. He's like, I want you to tell me every bump, bruise, scar, what happened. We were in that little medical office for 3 hours. He was fantastic. He said, if you had a cut you remember, tell me about it. If you had a bruise you remember, tell me about it. I'm gonna ask you different situations, tell me what happened. He's like, when you go grocery shopping and you hit your stupid shin on that darn bar at the bottom of the grocery carts, he's like, has that ever happened? I said, multiple times. He's like, what happens? I said, well, I swell up, I get a really big bruise, and I bleed under my skin. And I said, I bruise so easily all the time, I look like somebody beats me. And that would never happen, because I would beat back. So I had bruises all over the place. I've always been this way, and we never knew why. So in the hospital, when I had all my tonsil mass, I had to have 4 blood transfusions because I lost over half the blood in my body. And I do remember one on-call doctor who came in after the last time I bled. He said, we need to give you a blood transfusion. And I said, you know, I'm leery about that. I don't really want a blood transfusion. And he looked at me, he said, that's your choice. But if you bleed again, I will not be able to save you. He said, you have lost so much blood. We are at a critical level right now. So I'm like, all right, give me the blood. And I remember watching when they gave me the blood transfusion. Thank God that when I was under anesthesia, the last surgery that I had, they put the needle in my arm then. That was a big ass needle they had to put in for the blood transfusion. Thank God they did it when I was knocked out. Sorry, I'm jumping back and forth, but I'm just like remembering little snippets here and there. So that had happened. They gave me 3 pints of blood, and I was so weak for like about good 2 months after. I was dizzy all the time. I was weak all the time. My body really had to really heal pretty good and replace the rest of the blood that I had lost. So I got the blood transfusion, and I remember when I had my doctor appointment with Dr. Kitchens, I just went over everything that I can remember. 3 hours later, he's like, we're gonna do a lot of blood work, a lot of blood tests to find out what's going on. Sorry, I'm going up a hill and my ears are popping. So we decided to do tons of blood work. Everything came back. He's like, you have von Willebrand's disease, and you not only have von Willebrand's disease, but you have the bad one. So there's 3 types of von Willebrand's disease, and I had the worst one. So going forward, every time that I have any kind of dental cleaning, any kind of surgery, I've had surgery on my foot and my knee. I have to take what's called DDABP. It's a drug that they give me intravenously right before my surgery, and that helps me clot my blood. I also have to get platelets to help me, help my blood if it's really bad. And after that, we take a lot of great precautions, make sure I don't move around a whole lot. I have to be completely still and quiet 2 days after my surgery, and then the doctor will give me these pills. I have a good hematology doctor down here, Dr. Steingart. He's great. I live in Connecticut, but he's in Massachusetts. He's as good as Dr. Kitchens. He is just fabulous. So I had all my records transferred to him when I moved back home, and we went over everything, and now I take DDABP before I have a surgery. I take these pills to help me clot my blood after the surgery for like 2 weeks. I recently had a knee surgery in the beginning of 2021. I would say probably like around, I think it was in February or March I had that, and I bled like crazy. So we think my blood disorder is getting worse. I have to make an appointment with my hematology doctor and try to figure out if I need to go on DV-AVP permanently, where they have a pill form that I take, but we'll figure that out. I'm a general manager for a restaurant in Braintree, Mass, and when I put truck away, I can hit myself very delicately, and I bruise like crazy. So we have to figure out what's going on there. But von Willebrand's disease, I will get more into von Willebrand's disease, but I kind of wanted to give you a base of how we discovered that I had von Willebrand's disease. I do want to get into how to help you guys, if you have von Willebrand's disease, get a nice platform going and to be able to help each other. So we're going to do that as these videos progress. But I kind of want to just, like I said, give you a baseline of what happened to me, how I found out that I had von Willebrand's disease, and we'll go from there. So thank you guys so much. I do appreciate you guys, but I just really wanted to get out and spread the word about von Willebrand's disease. And, you know, you can live a happy, healthy life with von Willebrand's disease. You just have to dodge things a little bit easier and just be a little bit more aware. But it hasn't stopped me from doing anything that I want to do. So don't let it stop you. Don't be afraid. Just, we'll hit it head on together. Take it easy.